Hello, one and all, hello! We are zooming along at one heck of a pace. We are indeed. Coming towards the end of the campaign, and oh boy. Let's see. Last dungeon thing. Everyone's actually going to be granted 2 levels, which means the whole group's now going to be 18, except for Yellow Eye, who's going to be 19. Oh my god. I mean, it was 4 sessions, and with the catch-up thing, as you should be aware of, that we were doing. But anyway, they're still out there in some unknown place somewhere. It's a very mysterious situation where the group are. But forward in time. The mass battle situation, that's the latest update. That's what's going on. The Tanadil versus Carac showdown. And boy, it all came to a head because there was a southern hold. It was a key hold called Hornvo Hold. Now, this is a place that exists along cliff edges. Okay, so there's a long way round into it, and there's a short way straight up to it. But the short way comes straight to a fortress, a small fortress. Now, Tanadil was on site, and Carac was present for this mass battle. And the way that I determined the mass battle was basically a knock-on from the organisational battles between the Southern Coalition and the Red Hold Consortium. And instead of using the stats as they are suggested in the rulebook, meaning might, wealth, influence, and then times that by your scope modifier, to actually get proper army size, if you're dealing with an army type organisation that is primarily an army, then the way that I've done it is might times 10, wealth times 5, influence times 3, intrigue times 1, magic times 1, and then times scope modifier. So in this case, scope modifier was regional, so 25. So it gave them armies. It gave Tanadil 1,200 troops to defend with. It gave Carac 2,200 troops to invade with. So, the bigger force again. So he could afford to split those forces a bit, and he sent 500 men off round the other way to explore the back way in, the longer way in lead up to the battle. But of course, they got to the wooden bridge that goes across there, and the wooden bridge had been burnt. So that, on Tanadil's order, was that, and 500 troops had been left out of the fight. So then it was left to 1,700 against 1,200, but still just like so many troops. Now, in phase 1, the Avar defenders had their specialist archers. They've trained up some specialist archers, and they are called Mountain's Bite, that particular unit. And there's a point where a cliff edge faces a cliff edge with a huge gap between them, a terrible lethal drop. And it was that point where the Red Hold forces were making their way round that the Mountain's Bite were setting up and lobbing arrows across. And of course it's taking casualties in the first troops heading across. And Carac had to decide, am I going to use my mages here to try to get the force through, or save them for phase 2? So he decided to save them, take the damage, but of course he had an excess of troops to be able to take damage, and so it's just a case of keep pushing through. Those that's getting arrows in them and they're falling off the edge or going down, that's fine, let their bodies pile up and make a wall. We outnumber them. Spend their lives. He's also managed to get the Chastened in to help him, his Chastened followers. He did a test to effectively do that. Tanadil had successfully been able to prepare for 2 phases, and he was getting +2 in 2 of those phases. And Carac even tried to get spies in to see the fullness of the map, and failed at that attempt. and so Tanadil got an extra +2 to the main battle phase. But so he's got bonuses in the first 2 phases, basically. The second phase being the biggest bonus. So, he's got the drop on him in all these ways, and it's firing across at him. But Red Hold Consortium troops make it through the pass, trade a bit of fire back, but mostly take damage in that phase. But really the test was being made to see if they could get through and get up that pass, get up that hill, up to the fortress itself. And they did. They did. Now, no siege engines or anything like that. But Carac has trained in force magic. Sigurd is a force mage, and he's trained all of his mages to be basically force mages as one of their specializations. So they went up to the tower and all just did mass force mage stuff at the tower. So you didn't really need siege engines at that point because it was crumbling the structural integrity. And then they made this massive freaking hole in the thing. This is in phase 2, of course. Bust into the place. And again, Tanadil's forces had to fall back up to the workers' station, back along the path, and up to that building, where they just tried chucking some lumber and logs and stuff across the way to try and build a temporary setup. And it was at that holding point that they made Red Hold pay dearly for their incursion. So Red Hold won phases 1 and 2, and Tanadil managed to pull back phase 3, doing enough damage to Red Hold's forces, but still having to pull away. But, bought them enough time to get enough of his army out, and for him to get out of the secret passages that lead out of that mountain area and into the tunnels, and then through the mountains that way, that lead specifically from Hornvohold. Now, the south know those tunnels, so it's a potential source for them to counterattack back at Hornvohold, perhaps. Has anyone thought of that? Don't know. So, the battle's over. Tanadil's had to fall back. However, in the organisational battles between them, where they've really been sabotaging each other and destroying each other's other forces and things, it's then also just put the Red Hold Consortium into ruination. So both forces are in ruins, and this battle was supposed to try and get the Southern Coalition out of ruination, if they can win it. And if they can't win it, it would pretty much just destroy them as a faction. But Red Hold Consortium fell into ruins just prior to the battle. And it was deemed that an organisation in ruins, minus figures, shouldn't be able to conquer completely an organisation in ruins, basically. So, when it's a 1 versus 1 sort of situation. So the Southern Coalition got lucky. Red Hold didn't have quite enough on hand. Tanadil had done enough to them over time to weaken them so that they couldn't grip the south tightly enough to completely crush them, and once again they slipped between the fingers. Enough of them got away, and as they crush, they have hold of Hornvohold now. They have the +1 might, the +1 wealth from holding it, and these bonuses. They get to see the new south refugees coming in from the Korkari, the Chastened, the last batch of refugees coming up, running from the Darkspawn. We're now entering into the actual Blight itself now beginning. We're on month 0, where it's all kicking off on Origins. And, we're about to see, Ostagar and so forth happen. But what's going to happen next? Well, I can tell you that the situation is that Tanadil's forces have been scattered they've been going through these mountain passes in a sort of haphazard way, splitting up, so they can't be caught. That's quite clear. Squire tried tracking down Tanadil and failed, for reasons you'll discover if he manages to. Obviously, it's being sent out. Also, though, we have the towers. 8 towers of light. That's going to be the next question mark for this battle, and both sides need to try and bring themselves out of ruination. But they're going to get an opportunity to do that, because they're both getting a last push of reserves. It could have ended it at that battle, but because time has been bought, both sides have their reserves coming in. And this is probably going to be the last batch of reserves that both sides are going to get. So they might get an auto out of ruination status 2 or maybe 3d6 stability to get out of it, and a couple of attribute gains wherever they want them, sort of thing. Just as like a last surge of power, both sides, and then they're still equally as weakened as they were versus each other, sort of thing. So, yeah, kind of tough. It's been really bad for the Southern Coalition, but Templar reinforcements are coming. They've been seen in the Dales. They're almost at the mountains. They're going to be exploring their base that was destroyed and try and find out if there's any truth to the suggestion that it was the North that wiped it out. We have a seeker somewhere on station, whereabouts unknown, highly classified. What the seeker's up to? Part of the investigation into the Indigo Road, of course, the lyrium trade. But the 8 towers, as I mentioned, we need to get a mechanic for that. Something sorted. 8 towers. Remember the Who watches the watchfires. So the watchfire can go off and then the next tower can see it and they can put their one up. So it's basically a defensive bastion of towers. And basically it's like teeth. So anything trying to get through, and the whole lot gets warned. Now, anyone being able to successfully capture these towers will be able to control the split of the mountain range, and will push the other side basically back into their own region and stop them being able to push any harder. So it's really important to try to control all 8 of these towers. It's going to be a massive, massive objective. Now, the southern forces are running kind of scattered back and heading back towards the towers. Now, Redhold didn't have enough forces on hand to be able to hold it that deep down south. The Chastened took it before, and Chastened have just been passing through it. But some Chastened have taken up stations in the towers, and they're living in there, and they are the Chastened that are not allied with Redhold or the south. They still want to just, like, basically live in there. They're squatters, basically, and they'll try and fight anyone that tries to remove them. So there is a bit of a holding force on hand, but they are only refugees. It's not like they're hardened soldiers or stuff, but they're fighting for their lives and for their families and stuff. You've got kids and stuff living in there. But both armies need those towers. Now, the main bulk of Tanadil's reserves are coming up from the southern side of those towers. Right, and Tanadil's on the northern side at the moment, split up, heading back down through to the towers. Now, he'll probably be able to slip through the net, and his forces will probably all go through in like little groups of 3s and 4s and stuff, and get through that way, and just like filter back to their army, and then they'll be on the southern side of the towers. Because the Redhold Consortium captured Hornvo Hold, they'll be able to use that as a forward operating base, bring all their supplies from Redhold, bring them down to the south, bring them to Hornvo Hold, set up all along that cliff line, and make that the base to launch an attack from. So I can see both sides being approximately equidistant now from the towers, because of the south having to fall back from Hornvo Hold, and potentially having to make a push at these towers to capture them before the other, and then hold them effectively against the enemy and try to capture the majority, if not all of them. And then it's probably going to be a per tower bonus sort of situation going on. So maybe because of the position of each tower and the nature of each tower, they're not like equal. They've got different characteristics and they're in different positions. They could give different bonuses and advantages. So it'd be up to the commanders which tower they really want to try to exert themselves to capture. So there would be one tower, for example, that the way that the actual path is broken, and there would just be a deep drop, a cliff edge that carries on over on the other side then when the mountains start again, and the tower's just on the edge of that edge, sort of thing. And you might be wondering, well, what's the point of a tower there? Because there's a tower all the way on the other side. When they light that, they can see it over there, but they can't physically get over to it. So what's the point? Well, the point is that in the winter, the Frostback Mountains grow ice bridges between normally inaccessible points. So during the coldest months of the year, that is traversable via an ice bridge, and obviously when it's not, it's not. So there's a tower there, at least. So that's part of the structure. So that's a unique one straight away. It's inaccessible from that side if it's out of season. You've got one that's kind of more in ruins. You've got Watchfire Keep, the one that they did the Who Watches the Watchfires in, that they have all been to before. They all know the layout of that place. You've got some that are just like little rounded turrets, sort of straight up type ones like that. They're in different tactical positions as well within the mountains. Some are like on top of a mountain. Some are like within a basin sort of section. So each one's got its different battlefield characteristics. What are they going to do? That's the situation, the opportunity ahead of them. Whoever can exploit this will potentially draw a line in the sand and say, you're cut off now, and I'm ready to push you back, whoever it is. But the Templars are coming. Oh my God. I'll see you at the next one.